This is your introduction to section 3.1, part 1, lines and angles. Okay, objective that we're going to talk about here in part 1 is we're going to identify relationships between figures in space. Okay. The essential understanding here is that not all lines and not all planes intersect with each other. Okay, so you're going to hear a lot of similar information as to what you heard in the very first section of the year. We talk about lines and planes and things like that, but we're going to actually talk about specific things about lines. And we're going to start with parallel lines. And many of you know what parallel lines are. Okay, parallel lines are coplanar lines that do not intersect. They never intersect. This symbol right here is the important part. Okay, two little lines, and sometimes you'll see me, I'll slant them a little bit like that, where you have two lines that are parallel to each other. That essentially means that is parallel to. Okay, and an example, as you look at the box, as we look here, I'm going to mark down a couple of examples that they have written down. They have line AE and line BF are parallel. Well, right here is line AE and line BF. Those two lines are parallel on the box. Those are the two corners. And they'll never intersect. They continue to go on and on and on, but they never intersect with each other. Okay. Another example of parallel lines in this case is line AD and line BC. So as you look at AD is there, BC is here. Those two lines are parallel as well. Again, they're lines that never intersect. Then they're parallel. Okay, so those are a couple examples of parallel lines and what they look like. Skew lines. Skew lines are non-coplanar, so they're not in the same plane, they're not parallel, and they do not intersect. Okay, so lines that are not in the same plane, they're not parallel, they do not intersect. So the example that they give here of skew lines is AB, which is here, and line CG, which is here. They're not in the same planes, so they're not on the same part of the box. Okay, they're not parallel. In other words, they're not going in the same direction, and they don't intersect because they're far apart. Now you got to remember, you got to think about this picture here in terms of 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions, not 2 dimensions. Because if you think of it in 2 dimensions, then this is going to eventually intersect with it, but that's not true. Okay, if those lines continue to go on and on and on, they will never touch each other. They are skew lines. Another example of skew lines would be this. If I took line EF right here and line DH. EF and DH. They're not in the same plane, and they're not parallel, and they will not intersect. Okay, so skew lines. And then we've got the last part, which is parallel planes. Parallel planes are exactly what they say they are. They're planes that do not intersect. Okay. Now you'll notice in the picture you see the different colors, the top and the bottom. It has them color coded. The top and the bottom are parallel. Okay, plane A, B, C, D, and plane E, F, G, H. Now you'll notice they name them with 4 letters. You only have to have 3 to actually name it, but it has to have at least 3. Okay. You could also go with the right side and the left side of the box. So you could go with plane A, E, H. Okay, plane A, E, H is parallel to plane BCG. Those 2 right side and left side. And you could name them with 4 letters as well, but they have to have at least 3. Again, these are 2 planes that never intersect. Okay. All right, a line and a plane that do not intersect are parallel. Segments and rays can also be parallel or skew as well. Okay, we talk about segments and rays, and we won't talk a lot about those. We'll talk more about lines. Okay, now let's go through some examples here, and let's take this figure right here, and let's go through these and talk about these. It says, in the figure, assume that lines and planes that appear to be parallel are parallel. So which segments are parallel to AB? So I'm going to mark down AB. Line AB is right here, and I need all the segments that are parallel to it. Well, the easy ones that are parallel are CD and line EF. Those are the easy ones because those are in their plane and they're parallel to it. Now, the one that's a little bit more troubling or tough is the one diagonally from it, which in this case is GH or HG. Again, you can name them either way. But those are the segments, and I can mark these here. This is CD right there, that's parallel. EF is parallel, and GH is parallel. Okay, all four of those lines are parallel to each other. They will never intersect. All right? Okay, so letter B. Which segments are skewed to CD? So we look at CD, and CD is right here. I need segments that are skewed to CD. They're not in the same plane, they're not parallel, and they don't intersect. Okay, so first one I'm going to look at is AE. Line AE, which is right here, that is skew. Okay, it's not in the same plane. Line BF is another one. It's not in the same plane, and it is not parallel. Okay. Another one would be line EH, which is here. Okay. EH, again, it's not parallel, and it's not in the same plane. And then finally, the other one would be line FG. FG down here, again, they'd never intersect, and they're not in the same plane. Okay, so just to kind of clarify, lines that would be in the same plane here would be, the plane would be CDGH, which would be the right side. Okay, and none of those lines that are in blue are in the same plane. Okay, all right, so now as we look here at this one, what are two pairs of parallel planes? So I need two pairs of parallel planes. I need, in other words, a side of the box that are parallel to each other. And first one I would choose is ADE and BCG. Now again, I only use 3 letters. You can use 4 if you want. ADE is the front, BDC or BCG is the back. The front and the back. The other one I could use is ADC and EHG, which ADC is the top and EHG is the bottom. Okay, so in this case, this is the front and the back, and this is the top and the bottom. Okay. All right, what are two segments parallel to plane BCGF? Okay, let's talk about BCGF. BCGF is the back of the box back here. Okay, and we want two segments that are parallel to the back of the box. So, two segments that I could use are segment AD, which are on the front, and segment EH, which are on the front. These two segments right here, that segment and that segment, are parallel to the back of the box. Okay? Two segments parallel to that plane. You could also use HD and AE as well. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to complete, you're using the same picture, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to hit pause and come up with the answers for A, B, C, and D and see what you can come up with. Okay, now that you've hit pause to your on your video, I'm going to go through and show you the answers to these 4 so you can kind of clarify and make sure you have them correct here. Let's start with letter A. Okay, which segments are parallel to AD? Well, as you can see, segment AD is right here. So the segments that are parallel to it are BC, FG, and EH. And again, you can switch those letters around. H, E, G, F, and BC mean the same thing. Okay? Those are the lines that are parallel to AD. Explain why FE and CD are not skew. Well, FE is right here. We'll go FE is right here. And CD is right here. Well, the reason they're not skew is because, number one, they're parallel to each other. Can't be parallel. And they're also in the same plane. They're in the diagonal plane. Right there, the diagonal plane, like so. They can't be in the same plane, and they sure the heck can't be parallel to each other. Okay, so that's letter B. And then letter C. What is another pair of parallel planes? And you can't use the ones that we had before. So there are many options here, but the ones that I came up with was HGC and AEF. Or in other words, the right side and the left side. Okay? What are two segments parallel to plane DCGH? DCGH is on the right side of the box here. I need two segments that are parallel, and the two choices that I came up with were AB and EF. Okay, so now you can go through and correct and make sure that you have the correct answers there. And this concludes section 3.1, Introduction to Part 1. Make sure you complete your WSQ.